Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Adi Achint. There is a news flying around in the air that the Chinese are ready now to send weapons to Russia. Now, whether that is true or not, as General Shankar has already started smirking, is something that we'll decipher during the show. But just the implication of the Chinese actually wanting to sell, lease, I'm not sure, weapons to the Russians brings about some interesting questions, which is what we are going to discuss. Things aren't as simple and straight as they seem in geopolitics. Isn't that, sir? Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. You know why I was smiling? I was just reading, a headline in South China Morning Post, which says Biden brushes off concerns about China arming Russia, but promises severe sanctions if it does.
Ah, sorry. Which one do you believe? I don't know.
Well, it's like this. I'll put it this way. Um, I won't put it past China to do what it is intending to do, and I won't.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. We can talk that also.
No, not that. Sir. I was actually wanting to put up the couple of slides that I have
Yeah,
made.
I'll put it up. Yeah,
So,
so the flip is also there that I won't put it past America to sanction China, and it will not do a broad-based sanction. It will be a targeted sanction where
yeah.
it will hurt China. Okay, so my way of looking at it is China is very vulnerable today. I've never seen China so vulnerable. Okay, and yesterday only in the and I would request everyone to have a look at this. Yesterday only I posted yesterday or day before I posted my latest edition of the peek in a peek into everyday China, in which I discussed the decoupling issues. You know, the whole lot of decoupling factually I put across what's happening, and when you look, you aggregate what is happening as far as decoupling goes in China from China, then you realize that China is very vulnerable today. Okay, I mean the issues. Let me put it offhand. Apple has already put up a factory in India. A second factory is under production. They say by 25, which is hardly 2 years away, 25% of their production will be in India, and by 27, 50%. Okay, if you put this, that means only 50% will be left in China, which will only cater for the domestic market. Their export is zero.
Hmm.
Chinese domestic market. All the export will go from India. So that's a big shift. And if Apple has come, Dell is also followed. With Dell, others will also come. So this relocation and reshoring and friendshoring is full swing.
Put some pressure.
Yeah. Now the thing is this. Okay, you might not believe it. There's another article which I read which says that containers in ports, Chinese ports, are just lying empty,
Empty.
and trucks are lined up with no sawari. Okay, what is interesting in that article? I mean, mind you, again, I go by South China Morning Post largely because it gives you some level of authentic information. What is interesting is today the freight rates of a container from say China to USA West Coast is about $1,300. The same thing last year was $13,000. 90% fall in the freight rates of a container. मतलब मूंगफली के भाव बिक रहा है ये कंटेनर. So if that is the case, then China is badly off. These just take these two metrics. The rest I would suggest all of you go see that video. It's already gone live. So there is a major problem. Okay, and if USA does targeted sanctions against China, so the chances are, you know, difficult. The way I look at it.
So
But
now you've kind of,
I don't
sorry,
don't rule out China from doing anything. Yeah,
you've given an argument with regards to a side wherein, so there are two arguments to it. Let me rephrase myself. One is that USA is kind of pushing China, and this is all a propaganda where they'll kind of strangle China somehow. The second angle would be whether the Chinese are putting this stuff out purposefully to kind of create a certain purpose. So we'll kind of discuss both of them, sir. You've given a preface to one argument. Let's take up the second argument, and then we'll kind of see which one makes sense, sir.
yeah,
This is something that I collected together, sir.
yeah,
Uh, I thought, let me just,
yeah, yeah.
get
Same.
some talking points up. And will China send weapons? The USA intelligence has reported it. That's interesting. And this was also picked up by Der Spiegel, the first time actually. Drones and ammo is what is being talked about. But the major factor is that dual use items have already been in trade. For example,
Mm.
navigation equipment and stuff like that, which can be used in boats and this and that, and of course in
Yeah, but
various.
there's a caveat, I mean, which China has not breached. Anything which is of which has
Specific.
American thing technology in it, right? If it is found in Russia, it doesn't matter where. Okay, it doesn't matter whether it's dual use, single use, and all. The Chinese chap tends to lose rights.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know whether China has the guts to breach that line. Some will go, but no, I don't think it. I don't think it'll be mass. That's the first thing. Now, as far as ammunition is concerned, it is possible that is being done
Already
clandestinely
happening. Mhm.
already because China has got 130 mm and 122 mm guns and a lot of equivalent missiles like Smirch,
Smirch, grads.
Grads. So that is feasible. That thing could be happening without any this thing. So, but the other things like drones and all is a little difficult for China to hide, right? Because if it comes out in the battlefield, see, ammunition is something. If you fire, it doesn't matter who. Okay, but if you the other thing, if you do this, it's a problem.
Yeah. Like Iranian drones got caught in the battlefield. So
So there are issues which I don't know whether China will this thing. The second thing is you must remember China is trying to mediate between Russia and you know and US and
Ukraine.
Ukraine, whatever. Uh, Now, if it is doing that and then supplying arms to Russia, then its credibility is zero.
And
As it is,
Pakistan.
it is facing a problem of credibility,
Hmm.
right? This guy Blinken has said, I mean, China has put out about 10, 12 things they should do and all that, you know. And Blinken has said, you just give one, respect territorial integrity and leave the rest out. Okay. He's already given a shut up call. EU is also given a shut up call. So if that comes out, you see, it's all a matter of credibility. And if it comes out that China is trying to mediate on one hand and giving drones on the other, China's international standing will go down. Face. This is a matter of face. As it is, China is feeling, pushed into a corner um, because geopolitically it has been sidelined.
Mm.
So if it continues with this, it'll worsen out. So I
Indeed.
don't know whether it can happen, but like I said, certain things it will. Okay, because it has to keep something going to Russia, but whether it'll give arms and ammunition, question mark.
So the fourth point I want to talk about was that is this actually happening, or is this a pressure tactic that the West is using on China to excuse hai bhai, tod lo, which is the
Yeah, that's
premise
possible. That's
of the
possible.
first discussion, sir. Now
That's
there's also another
possible.
angle to it, which I don't know, because there's a lot of posturing which is happening because of this war. People are, you know, it doesn't mean anything on the ground, but there are statements issued and trends created and stuff like that. So
Mm.
is this a threat from China, or is this a thing from China to counter the Western claims of having discussions about sending jets to Ukraine? So that's something that could be there. Just put out on news. Chinese are pretty famous for that. I mean,
No, no,
they
I agree. It's that's possible. Such subterfuge is possible, right? But sending jets to Ukraine by the West is itself a thing on its own.
yeah.
It'll get shot down. Okay,
So you
because
also
it's
put out
China.
something that will never happen.
Yeah, it'll never happen. So China could be in that game because China is
Mm.
good at that game, and also China has to recover some last lost ground after that balloon gate and all that.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, so there are a lot of issues involved. Look, China
you,
is facing a lot of headwinds. Balloon gate, no exports, population, internal
so
problems,
that let's
and
go to
yeah,
let's go to, sir.
yeah,
You mentioned some of them,
mhm.
some here.
Yeah. Real estate is there.
Real estate
Unemployment
is
is
down,
massive.
unemployment,
Is
COVID,
massive.
COVID
COVID,
protests.
COVID protest, Bridgeman insurance protest. Yeah, is
Now the
CCP
question
getting
is
weak?
getting weak, and what is the position of Xi Jinping? Why I say this, sir? I was talking to you about this in the morning.
Mm, yeah.
China Times put out this report which says, rumor has it,
Mm.
okay, and that the Communist Party of China will set up an internal committee to unify the public security system. Now, I
Yeah.
can't put the
So
entire article, but this is supposed to be under the CMC, sir.
yeah. So what is happening in China is one interesting because for the first time look, you what you put COVID protest, Bridgeman insurance protest, three. Okay. Um, in between, they before that they had the bank protests.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So lots of
August,
stuff. It's
yeah.
been a
See, August, September, October, November, December. You're in the fifth, sixth month. In 5, 6 months, you had four major protests: Henan, Bridgeman, insurance, and COVID.
and there've been
Over
multiple
and above
online
that,
protests,
no, no,
Feng
not
Shui and all that stuff.
that is different. Apart from that, Peng Shuai, the tennis player case,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
those apart, there are two other issues which have come to the fore. All the workers who were on COVID
COVID.
duty, they were taken off and they protested. Doctors have protested because their pay has been cut. Okay, if you cut doctors' pay and insurance pay, obviously your money, your economy is not doing well. Plus these six protests in 6 months, and these are not small protests, these are nationwide issues. Okay, it's not just that one thing happening, 10 chaps in a corner of a street doing it. So, and things like that we've never heard of in China. The point is, 6 months, six protests, pretty serious, being reported, uh, not heard of. So what happens? So that means internally there's a problem. Now, if there's internally a problem, uh, obviously the security agencies are doing things differently. So they've put everyone under one, and then they've put up under the CMC. You could now backward integration. You do the 20th Party Congress where you said it is the army which will do everything for me. Okay, so Xi Jinping is concentrating army in the Central Military Commission, which anyway he only controls. Okay, so there is something happening in China which is not usual, right? Now they have to do something or the other, so they'll do diversionary tactics,
Exactly
right?
the question I'm asking, sir. Is China invoking nationalism against the West to try
Possible.
and
Look, they will do something, but whether it will work is a $1 million question. My own feeling is it will not work.
yeah. I am not saying, I'm not even going to the point whether it's work or not, sir. I'm just trying to analyze whether this
See, China
can
will
be.
do all that. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it. Let's be very clear. China will do everything in its power to get back its position. Okay. So it's going to do. After all, it has launched its global security initiative, and it's going great guns. It wants to
hmm,
now train 5,000, 6,000 people from all over the world in military affairs. जो जाके चाइना में सीख के आ गया वो तो बेवकूफ है, वो अलग
5,000.
बात है, but हाँ वो कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा. Incidentally, they've trained a few Pakistanis also, as per that report. Okay,
No
so
freaking,
huh?
no freaking wonder, sir.
हाँ वो ठीक है, वो that's a different story. So you are looking at a possibility but not a probability.
Fair enough. Now let's take 2 points. We've discussed both the angles of it, that China may not be. This is probably just the US putting a little pressure to target. In both these points, one thing is common: China will get hit. Both of them.
Yeah, yeah.
He doesn't send, they're gonna crack him because they will find some this thing. Even if it is propaganda, they'll find something and they'll hit him.
See, yeah, I
If he
agree with
does,
you.
if damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Now what
Yeah,
does he do?
they've put China in that corner.
Okay. Now what happens with that, sir? Let's
Hmm?
talk about what he will do when he gets into the corner little later. But what is that corner?
Look, they're going to keep China under the thumb. It is not only the look. China is in a deeper corner than what is. You're only looking at the Ukraine situation, U.S., China, and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, but remember, and the economy you said. What about the regional security?
Whole another pile of stuff, sir.
No, it's not pile. You see, the point is that
Yeah.
virtually the first island chain is now out of
Out.
China's grasp. Japan has doubled its, commitment to defense. It has, so has Taiwan, so has Philippines, so has Vietnam. The four may and South Korea. NATO has made a presence out there. People are cooperating with each other. And now the latest is that Taiwan has sent a battalion to US to train. So that's become a nice porcupine. Which right now with all this, China is actually quite contained now. Fully,
Yeah.
if okay. So what happens? Where does China go? The problem with China is this: it wants to be a superpower, it cannot be. It has internal problems, but behaving as if it has none. Okay, and at how far can it stretch itself with the surpluses it has created?
Which is also dwindling actually.
Yeah,
The interesting part, which is going to come out, and we've kind of spoken about this, is that once, basically what I'm trying to say is that, okay, fine, Russia is engaged right now, and the US and the West thinks that they've, or whatever, in their point of view, they've got Russia knotted up neatly. Nothing much to worry about, so they can take full on panga with China without the threat of the Russians coming back towards them.
yeah,
So, in whatever sense you see it, the West has been able to bring about a situation where a potential alliance would be there, fair enough, but it will be also engaged in its own self rather than being free to kind of act. I mean, you've got issues within Iran, which is the so called potential alliance: Iran, Russia, and China. You've got issues within Iran, which there's a massive amount of social unrest.
yeah,
Even now, 500, 600 people have been killed in
yeah,
these protests and this and that. You've got China, which has internal issues, and now you're targeting him for something here and there, training up Taiwan, this, that, and the other, Quad fixing up, Japan arming up, 50,000 other things over there, regional security, as you mentioned. And then you've got Russia neatly tied up in a knot in Ukraine. What happens now? Because at the end of it, the rest of the two, Russia and Iran, are more or less fair enough. They'll deal with their stuff and they'll this thing. China is not the one who'll keep quiet. How does
yeah.
China react?
China will do something. It has to do something.
How does
It
China
has to
react
do
now?
something. Look, China's got two, three choices.
Hmm.
Okay. One is the first choice is that if it gets an opening against India, it'll hit India. That's my view, and that's been my view not now or always, because the one person who can knock China off is India. But then, if that was the case, why would they talk to resolve the border, right? So, uh, because the talk has now moved from military to diplomatic,
Diplomatic.
political. So if that is happening, they want to back this border off. So they
I
have to
see how
start
it's
doing
moving.
some. Yeah, Yeah,
SEO is there,
SEO, lot of things.
G20 is
Okay,
there.
lot of cookies are in the pie here. So it might not turn this side.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't turn this side. It doesn't turn that side. Then what can it do? It can use a proxy like North Korea. It can use Russia itself as a proxy.
Yeah.
That's what we discussed in the morning. Okay, so the arrangement with China, with Russia will be how to use Russia as a proxy without telling Russia anything. Okay, that's the way I see things going. Because and China, knowing China, they'll cool down a bit. You watch it. They're going to maintain a low profile. They'll talk big because that they won't stop doing.
Can't.
They'll talk big, but they'll not do anything.
But how does Xi Jinping now create a sense of survival? Because the end of it,
Oh, well, that's to be seen. Well, let's see. Again, it's on a 50-50 case at this point of time. He is there on top. He has consolidated power nicely. And this latest move where the internal security is also put under the CMC, his consolidation of power is complete. He is carrying out with his, क्या बोलते हैं उसको, purging activities regularly. One banker gone here, someone else gone there. वो तो रोज आता रहता है. So he is fully in power, and as far as in power, he'll wait. He's going to wait. He's not going to do anything, right? And this also gives some time to China to put its own things right, which I think they are. They are attempting. They are attempting to, like they put out a law on rental for issues, some law on rentals, right, and things like that. They're focusing on agriculture and things like that. That is one. Second, they will continue with their space program, which is going at a pretty fast clip. There's a article which says they're going to match the number of satellites which Starlink has. Right? They can do all that. Those things they'll do. They'll go into AI. They'll now try to prove as if ChatGPT is useless compared to Chinese AI. All these things they'll do. They'll keep the kettle boiling. But will they do something concrete? Doubtful.
the reason I kind of came up with this thought is because there are two things in China which they are kind of starting to hoard. And that is interesting to me because those are the two most critical things for China. And if China gets stuck, those are two things that can make China survive. One is the food, and we know China has about 50% of the world's wheat in storage. Second is oil and gas. The Chinese have been importing like crazy. I mean, their imports are pretty much, I think, higher than India's total imports when they are, and it's just Russian gas and oil I'm talking about. And they're also getting imports from Iran and Saudi and stuff like that. So they're hoarding this stuff up. Is this a
They-
preparation? A lot of people will say this is a preparation of war, sir.
Mhm.
I'd say this is a preparation of freaking insane
Look,
sanctions.
I'll put it this way. I don't think they're hoarding. I don't think there's a preparation on. For the simple reason, whatever they have in terms of food, they need it badly because they remember they've just gone through a drought, a debilitating drought, where they would have had to release their reserves. So what they're getting is a makeup, and they have adequate farmland in Africa to make good their own issues. The problem for them is if they get isolated physically, or if tomorrow one of these straits is closed, that is a issue. As far as oil is concerned, what China has been doing, like India, is buying Russian oil, refining it, and selling it to the West. Okay, because see, look, the overall availability of energy, fossil fuel energy, is constant. Okay, whether you take it from this side or you take it from that side doesn't matter. So I don't think China is hoarding the crude which it is getting, and I don't think it has the capacity to hold so much crude. It would have some capacity. There's no doubt about it, and substantial capacity it would have. But to think that it will hold for the next for a war is, I think, a
No
little far
war.
fetched.
I mean, my opinion is not holding for war, but I think it's holding for
A
sanctions and this
continuous,
and that,
yeah, yeah,
preparing
yeah,
for. Yeah,
yeah. That preparation would be there, but I
that's
don't
my
think
my
so.
perspective, that they are trying to prepare themselves from sanctions. Ki yaar ye, we get stuck and we have to send weapons. Let's prepare for.
Yeah, that some amount of preparation would take place, but I don't think beyond that it would be. Uh, Despite all that I'm saying, if the situation becomes tight, there is a good chance that China might go berserk somewhere. Yeah,
I'm going down. Let's take everybody down. Yeah, of course.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Not
That's what.
everybody down. They have to do some odd thing somewhere. See,
Hmm.
again, you have to understand the history of China suggests that whenever everything else is down, they've been aggressive. So if since everything else is down, if they start being aggressive, we have a problem.
Yes,
That's the only issue.
absolutely. Which
Yeah,
brings me to the last thing I wanted to discuss today before we get into the questions. Guys, please start clicking the keyboards for the questions. This is a hypothesis that we're talking about. This is something now. See, the reason I there are a lot of news that comes out of the West for various different things, but when it goes up right to the levels of the presidents and the foreign secretaries and the foreign ministers, or whatever, secretary of state as they like to call it, and stuff like that, then you know that there is something in the pipeline. Either the Americans have actually picked up some intel, or as we discussed, the other side of it. So my point that I wonder about this sometimes is because at the end of it, you have a China with Xi Jinping, uh, who in position is putting out a peace plan, which has been rubbished and this and that, but Zelensky still wants to meet up with Xi Jinping and try and discuss that and all that. That's, I think a rolling game which is going to continue. China does not want to position itself as squarely in Russia's square, or Russia's
yeah,
basket, or standing next to Russia. Having said that, the plans for Xi Jinping to go to Russia are still very on. There's nothing.
yeah. That
Now,
will not stop.
that is where the positioning comes into place, where potential sanctions come into play.
See, it's like this. Yeah, I wouldn't say that his going to Russia is all, at the end treading that thin line. Because
Yeah,
as much as it is seen as supporting Putin, it can also be seen as opening a channel of communication and playing a larger global role. So he will go through, and if he doesn't go through, it will be a loss of face for China. So he'll go through.
he has
It
to.
might he has to. It might be minimal engagement. He might go there and talk differently. So, but that let's see when it happens. Because at this point of time, to speculate what he'll do is
It's difficult.
like
It's a
difficult.
very fluid scenario, sir, and
Yeah,
you're kind of seeing stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And
There's
the
no doubt about it.
funny thing is that there's slow and steady little bits of that balloon are also coming out. So there's I would say that overall pressure being built, and which is very harmful for China at the end of it, and it creates a lot of challenges. It forces a lot of corporates to think twice when they're invested in China. It forces a lot of people to speed up their decoupling, as you had hinted on at the beginning of the show. So that there's always this different angle and a different spin to this entire thing. Guys, I'm going to get into your question. Bala, I'm just going to put this out, and I really appreciate you saying Jai Bharat and Jai Hind at every show, every time you come in, and you're one of the first comments. My appreciation, and thank you so much for your support. Abhishek says, is it logical to infer that China played a better hand than India in geopolitics in the context of the Russia-Ukraine conflict?
No, I don't think so
Do we have any
at all.
potential sanctions coming our way? I didn't think so.
No, I don't think so. I think India has played a much better hand than China, right? Then India was in a tighter corner in the beginning of last year, if you remember, when this whole thing started. But today it's the other way around, right? It's a matter of time. That's about all.
Indeed. Sorry. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and Pakistan. may form a front with versus the West.
Bala, let me tell you, North Korea doesn't have food to eat. This is the latest news. Pakistan
Everybody
though
is
doesn't
fighting
have any.
weapons.
Oh, Pakistan is just collapsing. So front to and Iran itself is in a problem. So is Russia. Look, all these five countries, including China, are in internal having a lot of internal problems, and they're all some kind of dictators, autocracies. How will they balance each other, and who will be the leader of this front? Many questions. At this
Well,
point of time, China doesn't want Russia to lead, or Russia won't like China to lead. So leave it at that.
apart from that, guys, if you think that the China-Russia relationship is made from heaven,
Made in
I
heaven.
really request you to read the Six Wars of China, and you'll
Yeah,
kind of
one of
understand.
them is
Yeah,
Russia. The sixth war is Russia.
Six War is with Russia for world
Yeah,
dominance. So and the
whatever.
Russians know that, by the way. So it's not.
Mm. Yeah,
Uh, Apple is moving out of China. 100% of its production. HP is moving out also. Yes, and auto parts manufacturers also moving out. So
yeah.
your view on it.
Raghu, you saw that peak on Everyday China, which I put out day before yesterday. All these facts and figures I put out, and this is not going to get reversed. And my guess is that over a period of say another 3 to 4 years, if 25% of exports of China fall, China will be a normal country. Their consumerism won't pick up. It's not in the Chinese thing to start spending.
Yeah, they're planning to give handouts to their people. So
Yeah, they've already given a handout.
yeah.
So no, the question which I ask is, okay, I give you a handout. Will you spend it? I will not. If I were a Chinese, I won't spend it. I'll keep the handout in my pocket and survive for the next 3 to 4 months.
Or
Because
try
my
and sell it to
survival
God's mom,
is wherever. Yeah.
because money is pretty regulated within China at the moment. So it's any comments on the Chinese MEA report about economic apartheid by the Western countries?
Well, these things
These
keep
are war
coming.
of words,
Over words. Don't give too much credence to it. Yeah.
which is again, his comment brings an interesting thought to it that the war of words, as per se, if you see, I mean, whatever said and done, I guess he's put it across. Madhukar has put it across in an interesting way that the war of words with regards to send or not to send weapons to Russia
Mm.
needs to be observed. If this war of words is actually kept up, then this is the place that they will tighten the nuts on China. Or this is probably the start and a hint to say, okay, listen, you're next now, hang on. And then something else builds up in the future because there's now this is the second thing. One, you've got the balloon flying around, and then you've got this news, which is, a little bit of a negative, if I may say, as per China is concerned. There are reports from Russians that huge weapons are already taken out of warehouses from northern China to give to Russia. Do you think that they are accepting it openly, and it is a sign of leading to it's leading to war?
Well, again, these are all rumors which are coming out. I've not seen
Small
any
weapons,
yeah, big thing coming up. Yeah.
small weapons. I'm sure some ammunition, either other
Yeah, 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 yeah.
small stuff is
Yeah.
absolutely there. Well, Mr. Traveler, Mr. Ross, Miss, I'm not sure, but you've asked a question about Brahmaputra. It's not a part of this particular discussion, but it is a threat. So let's kind of see if Sir has a thought on it. China is already blocking the Brahmaputra River, which will have devastating
They're
effects on
not
North.
blocking. They're not blocking Brahmaputra. Let's be very clear. They're building a dam there. That's all.
Yeah,
And that we have discussed. The way is see. Firstly, 75% of water, maybe 80% of water in the Brahmaputra comes from our side of the LAC through Subansuri, Siom, and all others, right? Uh, so it was only this channel, the Changpo channel, which comes down, has water coming from China. If that is blocked, all you have to do is create another dam on our own side to
which
have
is
a pool
already
of
happening,
water,
sir.
which is happening. So let's not give too much credence to it.
Funnily speaking, I don't know if you remember, we spoke about it one night on a live, And then next day morning, there was a news that this dam is now construction has started and everything. मैं
Yeah,
fax
yeah.
लिया, ये ठीक है.
It's already started.
Damn good. It started right at the very next day, so it's
Yeah.
very interesting. There are also reports of vanishing $2 trillion trade surplus, which they reported during the pandemic. But those 2 trillion are not on the balance sheet anymore.
Well, I don't know this. I have not read about this.
Amay, if you can, please share this report with us. I'd love to, go
Yeah,
through
we'll
it.
like to see it in detail.
Yeah, so we can analyze it. West invading and sending weapons in Iraq, Vietnam, Afghanistan, plus proxy war in Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, etc. is okay, but Russia invading Ukraine and China sending weapons is wrong. They think the world is stupid.
Look, we are not talking of the morality of this whole story at all. Who's right, who's wrong. We are looking at it, what is going to happen and what will be the repercussions. And at the
Repercussions.
end of the day, we are only going to see what is it for the India in this.
But Ashish, you have a point, and that's what me and Sir were discussing in the morning. That the trust factor is taken a big dent as a result of the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
Vaman,
Trust. No one trusts. Yeah.
yeah, thanks for becoming a member of Dev Talks. Uh, let's kind of move forward. 1 second, sir. Ah, when will China's bluff burst? Mr. Dictator, what? You want me to stop making videos because the Chinese bluff burst? Half my analysis goes to the doorstep.
they'll keep bluffing. Yeah.
Russia will never be anyone's second fiddle. Too much vodka
Yeah,
and honor.
that's the basic contradiction between Russia and China. Okay, both want to be number one. No one wants to be number two. So leave it at that. It's good for us that they're like that because then Russia will keep behaving with us, right? So Russia needs us more than we need Russia at this point of time. So it's good that this, I would say this, I wouldn't say discord, but this competition is there between them who will be number one in their
Truly.
relationship. Yeah.
That is the most dangerous thing, this competition. Because any competition with China is not competition. It's actually, it revolves much further than that.
Mm.
China sent its troops to North Korea to defend it from USA and Southern Korea. China might do the same with Russia with
Oh
supplies.
no, no,
China
it's true.
needs Russia.
I don't think so. It's not so simple that China will start sending troops all over. Not in the present condition. No.
Ashish, you're
And
saying,
just remember, if China sends troops to Russia also, they have to fight some 6,000 kilometers away in Ukraine, half the world away. Not,
डंडे
not,
खा के
not
तो
small.
भाग जाते हैं सर, एक गोली चलेगी तो क्या करेंगे?
ये क्या करेंगे?
I mean, sorry, that's not very strategic of me, but anyways.
Yeah, I agree with you.
uh, right. Uh, India should be on guard against CCP virus army, especially with bioweapon. Don't you think so? It's a
I
war
don't
by
think
unknown.
so. I don't think this bioweapon thing is. Even then, I said it is not. Today, I am very convinced there's no bioweapon around.
The funny thing about a bioweapon is, even if it was, for hypothetically, even if COVID was a bioweapon, one must understand these bioweapons are like a boomerang. Once you throw it, it
Yeah,
comes
it'll
back.
come back to you.
So you have to be
So,
very careful.
I mean, we are making too much of it.
And the bioweapons, if I was anybody and I don't have any clue about tactics and this and that, but I try and I try and make the bioweapon which will kind of diffuse in 2 3 days after a certain effect in a small place. You won't want it to.
No,
So
no.
I mean,
I mean, let's leave it
nuclear
at
weapons
that,
are
right?
much easier to use. So
Yeah,
EMPs and this and that.
yeah.
But I think that even if the Chinese did try it, I'm sure they learned the lesson that this thing will come back and hit you. So don't do
Hit
this
you.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Ah, Interesting. Why is China loaning more dollars to Pakistan when it is restructuring earlier loans? Will America lend money through IMF, or will they only go through the Chinese kitty? The third ally, as they say, sir.
they, I'm going to write an article. It's called bloody Anarkali Disco Chili about Pakistan. The anarchy in Pakistan is anarkali, the way I look at it. And anarkali, this anarkali has slept with everyone in the world. So, कोई तो पैसा फेंक रहा है यार. If China doesn't give money to Pakistan, Pakistan will sink, and it will be China at China's expense. All their projects will go fut. This is part of the evergreening stuff. So leave it at that. China has not. Long back, I had said Pakistan has never returned money to anyone. It's a one-way street, and it's in black and white. It's in one of my articles. Okay. At the end of the day, China will keep counting its fingers where it's all its money went, and then they'll find they don't have fingers to count. Also, that's how you deal with Pakistan. Okay. So we'll just wait for some more time when China loses all its fingers to Pakistan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pakistan is also a funny country where you have contradicting news. In the morning, when I
Yeah.
opened
What
my
else?
phone, it was saying that the finance minister said there's no money for salaries, and then Express Tribune noted that, and
Hmm.
then within about half an hour, 45 minutes, the Dawn reported that यार नहीं नहीं पैसे हैं कुछ नहीं है
Oh,
टेंशन नहीं
ठीक
है.
है ठीक है. Pakistan is a pretty today a cartoon देश है. छोड़ो.
I mean, it is quite funny.
Yeah, I
Uh,
agree with that. I agree with you. It's funny. Okay.
it's sad
So
and funny actually.
yeah,
Yeah. Russians are saying they're not small arms. They are talking about artillery 125, 122, I think, and 155 mm.
yeah. It is 122 and 155 if they could get. I told you a lot of the 122 caliber is quite a common caliber. Russia and China, everyone. Even we had these once upon a
Yeah.
time. So that they can get. Even the 152s are common. So they'll
And
get.
by the way, incidentally, the Pakistanis are sending 122s to Ukraine. So,
Ukraine, yeah. No, no, don't be surprised if the same Pakistanis are making 122, giving it to China, and China giving it to
yeah,
Russia.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I don't.
ये भी
Yeah,
होगा.
yeah, yeah.
हम्म,
I
ठीक है.
won't be very surprised.
Pakistan will now sell anything to anyone to make money. Okay, so leave it at that.
Vaman, I think this bioweapon thing we've answered to you.
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, it's a far flung possibility. So, and one of the things I do understand. Okay, let me just put this across. I think the COVID was leaked from the Wuhan biolab, but I think it happened by a mistake. The
By
Chinese
mistake, yeah.
realized it, and then they said,
And
"Okay, do we die or do we take everybody along? Take
yeah,
everybody along," and they just let
that's
it
the point.
loose. Yeah, so
That's all.
it's
That's all.
it's what it is.
I think
That's something that I can.
yeah, we have to move on from COVID at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, remember it, China.
Ultimately, it caught China only.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Force India 1947. Exactly, sir. Everybody, please just touch. You don't have to press. You just need to touch it. I'm sure all of us are using touch screens. So just touch the
Mm.
like button so that this hypothesis filled discussion. I'm sorry, because we're trying to analyze why this is happening and what will be the future uh, in terms of all this stuff. Oh, people are going really amazing, sir. Raghunandan says, is there a possibility of China supplying
No,
chemical weapons? No,
no, no, not out of question.
the Russians have enough, trust me. Okay, so you have a new title for your article. It says it's more like anarchy to
Yeah,
be
that's
precise.
the point. That's exactly the thing. It's anarkali. It's anarkali to be precise. Yes. You must remember, Pakistan is called the land of क्या? Shaheeds. Shaheeds, Ghazis and Nyazis. जो शहीद है वो मर गया, जो राइट, जो नाजी है क्या, गाजी है वो जीत गया, जो
Hmm.
सरेंडर कर दिया वो न्याजी है. ये look, this I read and gone, incidentally. Oh,
I'm going to take this one question, and then after that, I have a big one to ask of you.
yeah.
The Russian ambassador recently mentioned in his speech that they are looking to diversify indoor. See, this is the interesting thing. What's up, China? Best friend, ये वो and all that. Next week, oi, India, India. बोल यार
They'll
कुछ.
come. They'll come to India. Let them diversify. We have no problem. We'll deal with Russia. Yeah.
And they'll deal with us. We both know how to deal with each other, so that's
Yeah,
not a
yeah, yeah,
problem.
yeah. That's not a
So
problem.
now, just bringing about a question with regards to Xi Jinping, and this is where I kind of find a little bit of a challenge. I was watching someone on Joe Rogan's podcast who said that today Xi Jinping, because of his actions in the CCP, in the CPC, 20th Party Congress, um, he has now become in a come to a place, and this is probably hypothetical, or I don't know. I mean, dictators normally function like this. There's sort of a precedence to it. He says that today Xi Jinping is in a place where he does not want bad news, so people don't bring him bad news anymore. Uh, so what that tells you, and I really uh, subscribe to General Narayan's adjective for him, megalomaniac. Now, when a megalomaniac kind of is being given information with regards to what he wants to hear, which is more or less positive all the time, he's in his little shell and cocoon and stuff like that. And you've got your lackeys which are around the place. These lackeys are, by the way, useless because Chingang, who was the foreign minister, is not going for foreign trips. It's still Wang Yi who's going for foreign trips. So
Yeah,
there's,
but yeah, no, till March, Wang Yi is the foreign minister.
so
So only in March will the
साथ
changeover
में भी
take
नहीं जा रहा
place.
सर, अंडर स्टडी भी नहीं है उसके तो.
नहीं नहीं वो ठीक है but till that's their system. Why
That's
why
the system. Fair enough.
Okay.
My question is about Xi Jinping now, sir. I find that China and Xi Jinping today have become reactive rather than proactive. It was before that China used to create issues and dominate issues. Today, China is not that. How do you see a position of a dictator like Xi Jinping evolving in the future with stuff like this happening? Today, it's Russian weapons. Tomorrow, it was China's spy balloon. Tomorrow, there'll be something else. One bullet will be fired somewhere. Today, by the way, there was a US aircraft that was intercepted with missiles. They one J-11 came up with anti-air missiles, showed them and went off. But this was happened. So these kind of incidents will keep on happening in the future. How do you think the position of Xi Jinping is going to evolve?
See, Xi Jinping is very clear. I mean, we might call him a megalomaniac, you can call him anything you want, but the fellow has got full grip on the country.
Yeah.
Okay, he's got full grip on his Politburo, he's got full grip on the Central Military Commission. So to think that he is going to do things illogically is out of the equation. He has to carry out certain actions which will show China in a good light or a positive light or a macro light. So these things like in aircraft violations, uh, petrol craft violations, all these will continue. इसमें कोई रोक नहीं होगा. But will they cross a line? They might not cross a line. Okay, they will not cross a line. Now, why this aircraft incident has happened? Because the balloon was shot down. The fact that the balloon was shot down means that they're carrying out a lot of balloon based exercises, which again, incidentally, those of you who have not understood what this balloon story is, look at our video which General Narayanan and I did yesterday. We've discussed the technology and the geopolitics of these balloons, why they have done it, why and why what is a counter USA has put forth. So you read that, you see that, and then we can talk of all this. But then see that it's a good video. So he is very clear that his there will be offensive veneer to whatever his actions are, but internally he is defensive. All his actions indicate that he is internally consolidating because the way he is consolidating on this internal security, he wants to hold on to power. He talks of the Chinese Communist Party having done a great thing to save China from COVID. Still, last week he came out with a thing. He still goes around, visits farmers, ye wo, for food technology and things like that. He is exhorting people to come up with new technologies. He is putting his way. He'll play a different tag. He says, "Look, our population is going down. This, that, and all that. Let's get after AI. Let's get after robotics. Let's get after space to go into the frontiers of new technology." Along with this, he is now putting thrust on the global security initiative. So don't think there's no method in this madness. Okay, as much as there, I mean, just think. Uh, there are he can get 5,000 people to train in, with PLA or in China. A lot of people in Africa will send guys to China for training. Okay, so there are, or South America for that matter. So there are issues where Xi Jinping is going to be aggressive. There are places where he's going to consolidate, but his main agenda has not left the shores. Be very clear about that. He still feels that China should be number one. He still feels that it's a matter of time before China recovers. So you have to look at this man not as an idiot, but a chap who's scheming his way through. It's at three levels. I've shown you three levels at which he's operating. One is that outer veneer of aggression. There's inner thing of consolidation. In between, he's doing, giving you an alternate theory of the world. Even
Hmm.
this thing about
Peace plan.
forwarding a plan is giving that, look, only I can solve the problem.
He's made maps and stuff like that. No?
Whatever. The point is that all this is part of that story.
I am
So
understandable. Yeah, well,
there are three levels at which he's operating. As far as you understand this, multiple levels at which he's operating, the rest everything falls into place. See, again, my take is only one. I couldn't care less what happened, what he does, and how he does it with whom. How does it affect India? That's the point. And here again, I'll keep saying, if you read Xi Jinping and his actions, they are absolutely against India every time and each time.
oh, yeah, there's no question about it.
Everyone talks that his focus Taiwan. I will say his focus is India.
He is doing these WNCC talks also for what? So that he
What?
can peacefully come to India,
Yeah.
do the ready G20,
So
and
yeah,
probably next year again he'll be standing and
and
saying, Salam
no,
Saab.
but he's got SCO also to go. No,
Ah, वही
SCO G20.
G20 is SEO, India का presidency है now. If he creates a little challenge, so India will have a little upper hand. He'll
Yeah.
probably
So
be get a royal with
this
no
year, you can
nothing.
write nothing will happen. So, but next year onwards, you will have a problem. And by next year, if China starts recovering, it will recover to some extent. Let's be very clear. It will stabilize to somewhere. If it stabilizes, even at a lower level, he'll try. So I look at him slightly differently. If when I analyze things, how he'll approach India and how he'll approach the whole world as a whole. I mean, there are two issues: how China behaves with the world, how China behaves with India. So I'm more interested in the later. Okay, so that's how I look at it.
Well, that's an interesting thing, sir, because to me, Xi Jinping is the guy to watch. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
that, and they're getting into some meeting. I forget. Is that
And I'm
final?
sure by now we have laid down a red line even for Putin not to cross somewhere.
Yeah, yeah, of
We would have
course,
conveyed it, yeah.
of course, of course. PM Modi mentioning this is not an era of war
Yeah.
is ठीक है. तू छोटा मोटा कर रहा है करते रहे, ज्यादा बड़ा मत करना. That's something which is of course said at the back end. कि I can only go till that extent, boss.
No
Beyond this,
more.
if you go out and start bombing Poland and Romania and all that stuff, sorry, not
Thus,
going to
in
happen.
any case, I don't think Russia has got that capability.
And I don't
I
know.
mean, it's very clear now they don't have the military capability to move that front line up beyond Dnieper. And
Beyond.
If Dnieper was the final destination, Russia shouldn't have gone to Kiev. So we'll leave that out of the equation.
That's a different. No,
Ball
China
game.
is also in a very precarious position around itself. Uh,
Yes.
it's not the free feeling this thing who could walk around and do whatever
No,
it
no, no,
wanted.
no. Well, that's all gone. Even they,
Yeah, so you got
look,
Philippines hardening up. You got Vietnam
Yeah,
hardening
that's
up.
what we told you. Japan.
Malaysia, of course, it's not a good news for India, but Malaysia has also bought new fighters and this and that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I mean, it's part of the game. Yeah, some Americans lost out in the F-18 deal with us. Uh, that's okay. It's part of the defense game and different discussion. The Japanese are arming up. You've got the Australians who are talking about assurances to the ASEAN nations that our 8 nuclear submarines would be for collective defense.
Yes. AUKUS.
So he's getting hemmed in as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's no doubt.
And this is for the first time that you will find China who will have to play on multiple fronts. Otherwise, he used to choose and open his own front.
No, now he's on a back foot. He'll
Ab-
remain on a back foot for some time, and then we'll see where it goes. But the
Absolutely.
point is, in this time, we should make good India.
Progress. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been a good discussion. I think we've come about understanding some stuff because at the end of it, it is, you know, something very interesting because what is happening is that the Chinese are, as you said, on the back foot. And it's probably for the first time in about 2.5 decades that we've seen the Chinese
Seen
now
China on back foot.
reactive, not proactive. The wolf
I
warriors have
agree.
lost their steam. Xi Jinping will probably need to make good with India before he, does something. Now, whatever said and done, you may look at Prime Minister Modi's approach to Xi Jinping and saying hello as a step down. But when you look at it now, it was not a
Yeah.
step down. It was actually a step up. So yeah, I made the first move. I went and said hello. You want something from me? Send your guys here. Otherwise, nothing gonna happen anymore. So it's how stuff works, and it's very interesting how this whole thing is being played out, and it'll be obviously fun and very very engaging to watch it in the future. Till then, sir, thank you so much for this wonderful talk, and Jai Hind, all of you. Before you sign off, please do like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you can, do help out the DevTalk experts with the QR code right here, or you can join in as a member or send us a super sticker, super chat. Thank you so much, sir, and Jai
Thank
Hind.
you. Jai Hind.